This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 9:06 a.m., Monday, September 18, 2023. This is a hybrid format meeting on GoToMeeting and in person from the Hampton Inn in Salem. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here in person and everyone who's attending virtually. Thank you. As a point of housekeeping, all members of the public, please include your name and license number on your login on the screen so we can record that. Also, please keep your camera and your sound muted until the public comment time if you choose to speak. A note for people in session here, the owl we're using is very sensitive and we'll pick up sidebar conversations. And let's not forget our digital format is going to be posted publicly now. So we want to be very mindful that we're not having a lot of sidebar traffic. So we will just, if you need a break, let me know. I'd rather take breaks than have transmission problems. Okay, let's get on to introductions. I'd like to call roll. Let's start with the board members in person and then board members who are remote. Then we'll go to staff and finally members of the public. I'm Beckett Rowan. I'm currently the LMT chair of the board and I work out of Eugene, Oregon.
I'm Krista Rodriguez, LMT member based out of Medford, Oregon.
I'm Carol Gray. I'm the LMT vice chair member and I'm in Portland.
Maria Odell, public member, coming to you from Lebanon.
Shannon Gall, LMT, Walton, Oregon.
I am Bob Rourke. I'm the executive director here for the board.
Jeff Van Lennon, compliance and licensure manager for the board.
Mitch Breedlove, compliance coordinator for the board.
Policy analyst for the board.
Lori Lynn Lee, assistant attorney general assigned to the board, and I brought a guest.
Heather Robeson, assistant attorney general.
Okay, I think that's everybody who's here. Can we move on to public members?
I am Roy Lee, LMT in Portland, Oregon. 023272 is my license number.
Thank you.
Amy Bennett, Portland, Oregon, 11023.
Good morning, Cindy Robert with AMTA Oregon.
Melissa Davido, Portland, 15905.
Thank you. I believe that's everyone in attendance. Do you have everything, Akaike? Okay, wonderful. Then we need to move on to approving today's agenda. Can I get a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second? Maria, you second that? Okay,
Second,
all
yes,
in
sir.
favor? Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next order of business, we need to approve the minutes from the July business meeting. First of all, do we have any discussion on those minutes? Anything that needs to be corrected? Okay, seeing no need for discussion, can I get a motion to approve our minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Carol and Krista, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next, we have board business. We're going to start with our director's report.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to go through the director's report here. It's kind of long. A lot of things have happened over the last couple of months. So it's been very busy at the OBMT offices since the July meeting. I've been working with our strategic planning moderator to get our strategic plan finalized and in the board packet for your review. That's one of the agenda items later on. I wanted to give you a brief about some of the governor's expectations that she set for agency directors. The expectations were given to us right after she took office. And I've been attending several meetings and working with other directors and the governor's office and staff to meet these expectations. And I put them in the director's report. I'm going to do a brief overview of them. The first thing is the governor requires performance reviews for agency directors. Every agency director who reports to the governor or board or commission will receive a performance evaluation every 2 years. Now, we were already in the process of doing that performance evaluation here, but the governor's office, the governor put together a committee that came up with a plan with timelines and everything, and that's attached to this director's report, which shows what the governor's office wants to do is use a third-party vendor and have that third-party vendor. I will be giving the third-party vendor people for that third-party vendor to reach out to. So it's going to be people that I work with, staff. It's going to be people in the massage industry. There's a sampling that they have to have. I think it's a total of 15 people they want. And they'll be sending them evaluation forms, which they'll send back. And then that information will be given to the board, and the board will have the final approval on the evaluation. My evaluation is going to be next year. I think it's March, according to the timeline here. It is, yeah, March. So we don't have to do the evaluation if we started already.
Well, I was just about to ask that, so
Yeah.
I can take all of that.
You can take, yes, all that info and get rid of it, because it's going to be pretty soon anyway. So if we do one now, we're still gonna have to do that one. Just gonna be it'll be doubling the work, so.
Well, thank you to everybody who turned theirs in, to all the staff. I appreciate that work anyway.
So what we're doing right now as directors is we're kind of finalizing the process with this third-party vendor because it's going to cost, like everything. So we're trying to figure out what that cost breakdown is going to be and how we can fit it in the budget. The second thing is that the governor requires performance feedback for employees. This has been going on for a while. Actually, Governor Brown started this. It's called quarterly check-ins. Instead of an evaluation process for employees, the model that the governor wants to have is that you should be checking in with your employees quarterly versus once a year to give them an evaluation, right? So at the beginning of the year, you'll set some goals for that year, and then you'll do quarterly check-ins with your employee. I think Jeff has done one. We haven't done any of them yet, but we're going to start this quarter, Jeff and I. The third one is measuring employee satisfaction. So all agencies will use a Gallup Q12 survey to facilitate an anonymous annual employee satisfaction survey. This is also a cost. And we're working right now to see if we can do it in the small agency and board directors together, share the cost, so it doesn't cost each one of us, chunk of money. So we're trying to figure out how to do that right now. That is in the process. Number 4 is strategic planning. It says agencies will develop and follow a strategic plan using goals outlined by the governor's office. We did our strategic plan at our retreat, the board retreat in July. In the packet, we have our strategic planning retreat summary, and then we also actually have the plan, which is a two-page plan that was put in there. And hopefully that gets approved and we can get that submitted to the governor's office. When I met with the strategic planner previous to that meeting, I did lay out what the governor's expectations were. So we followed the governor's expectations while building that plan.
I liked her a lot.
I did too.
I thought she did such a great job.
She did. She did our one previous to the one.
Yeah.
So, The fifth one is all agencies will develop and submit an annual succession plan. Succession plan is due December 31st. I'm currently working on this. There's some criteria that the governor's office submitted, just recently came out, about how she wants us to formulate that plan. We've been attending meetings. Every one of these bullet points have a meeting associated with it and a group of people. So, and then we sort of meet. These meetings are every director. So you'll have people that have 5,000 employees, you'll have people that have 2 employees. So we like to meet as boards and commissions outside of the big group, so we can kind of build our stuff based on what our dynamic is, not 1,000 employee office. So we're working on our succession plan right now. That will be available for the board to approve in the November board meeting. Bullet 6 is state government commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. All agencies will develop and submit a biannual diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, a DEI plan. Our DEI plan is embedded in our strategic plan. The governor's office allowed agencies to embed their DEI plan within their strategic plan. So this board chose to do that, and at our strategic planning, DEI was at the forefront of a lot of the decisions that were made. So that'll be our DEI plan, will be our strategic plan. Agency emergency preparedness, every state, that's bullet 7, every state agency, board, and commission will have in place an updated annual COOP plan, or continuity of operations plan. Our COOP plan was approved at the July board meeting, and it has already been submitted to the Office of Emergency Management, so we're on top of that one. Bullet point 8 is agency hiring practices. Each agency will maintain an average of 50 days or less time to fill for their open competitive recruitments. We don't often have people that we hire. We don't have a lot of turnaround. We just ended up hiring somebody, but we, as a small agency, I have decided that I would like to open, as we did with the recruitment we just had, open those positions internally first as a promotional opportunity to allow our staff to compete. If we couldn't promote somebody into that position, then we would certainly open it to the outside. But we use DAS for our hiring, DAS HR, and they have a whole process already in place to meet that 50-day requirement, so we're on top of that. Audit accountability. So we're already audited biannually, and so we'll be able to comply with this mandate without changing any procedures. In fact, our audit started today. And it should be completed, I think it's the end of October. Our audit will be complete, and I'll be able to have it for the board at the November board meeting. And then section 10 is develop new employees and managers. There's a requirement for new employees to attend the new employee orientation, as well as DAS customer service training within 60 days of hire. Of course, this is, since we're with DAS HR, this should be, or will be handled by DAS HR. Should we hire a new employee? And then bullet 11 was only required for agencies that have 100 or more employees, so it doesn't apply to us. So we have 10 things that we have to comply with. Any questions about where we're at on those goals?
How many were increased from the previous governor to this governor? Did she have 5, or I'm just curious?
There were none from the previous governor. There were, you know, you got to understand the previous governor was kind of marred in COVID, and so there were no plans such as this. Okay. So there's also more agencies that have can help the homeless or the houseless population. There's a requirement that a certain percentage of budgets be allocated for helping that population. We just didn't have any way of doing that. So some boards and commissions don't.
If it's in your mission, kind of.
Yeah, it's in our mission, yeah. So, you know, ODOT, for instance, they have a lot of people that camp on ODOT properties, so they were mandated to provide a certain percentage of their budget toward helping the housing populations.
Thank you, Robert.
Yep. Any other questions?
have a comment. Bob,
Yes.
it's really hard to be an excellent, outstanding bureaucrat. You got to keep a lot of balls in the air and get stuff done. And you do such a fabulous job. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. Thank you. So I'll move on to the next one here. So LEDS 2020 is a new program that went live recently. I'll give you a little bit of information about that. Previously, board members had to just get fingerprinted, right? To have access to CJIS information, which is criminal justice information. Now, with LEDS 2020, it's divided access into two categories. So myself, Jeff, and Mitch, who are LEDS certified, we don't have to be CJIS certified. We have to be LEDS certified. We do that every 2 years. People that have access to criminal justice information, which includes our investigators, our board members, any of our staff, has to become CJIS certified with this new LEDS 2020 system. So how that works is I'll put all your information into the CJIS system. You'll get an email saying that you need to complete this training. And it's a training that needs to be renewed yearly. And it just basically overviews not sharing that information, and who you can share it with, who you can't share it with, and how to treat that sensitive information and things like that. So I'm the administrator for that program. And so I'll be sending links to that training to everybody. And I will probably reach out to you also with a phone call to let you know it's in that email so you can get it done. And I'll walk you through it if you need help with it too. So it's a pretty quick training. The next thing is, so on the agenda is the upcoming FSMTV meeting delegate information. As the delegate, the board chose me to be the delegate. I would like the board, delegate. I would like the board to review the proposed resolutions and bylaw amendments. If there are any comments or concerns that the board wishes me to express on behalf of the board, I would appreciate input to that. I have completed our Matilda forms and sent them directly to FSMTV for the board to participate in Matilda. We have participated in Matilda in the past. In fact, we were the first member board to sign up when Matilda went live. However, due to issues unknown to me, I don't know why we stopped doing it. We stopped participating in Matilda, so we needed to get that going again, because participation in Matilda has many benefits, including if the state of Oregon ever chose to participate in the Interstate Compact, active participation in Matilda is required. And I've briefed you guys on Matilda before. Matilda is just a program that all the member boards share information, and it's a database that you can search to find out if somebody has discipline in another state under their license. That's a member of Matilda. So the next step in the Matilda process is getting together with IT and getting together with our database person and figuring out how to transfer data and what data we need to exclude under our privacy laws in Oregon. The budget report. So in August, the state of Oregon and the various unions representing state of Oregon employees came to an agreement regarding cost of living, or COLA, increases for the next biennium. The agreement included a one-time $1,500 cost of living payment with the employees, which happened on September 1, 2023 paycheck. The agreement also included two cost of living increases with effective dates. So a December 1st, 2023, 6.5% cost of living increase, and a January 2025, 6.55% COLA. There's some caveats there of some funding that doesn't apply to us because we're not funded by the legislature, we're funded by, we're a SEBA board. So in my budget proposal that you approved and that we're currently under, I included a 13.31% increase in payroll expenses, which now just covers the COLA. So I'm going to have to increase that and take the money from somewhere else to be able to cover the increase in insurance costs and other things. So I will, once I kind of figure out what that's going to be, I will make that proposal to the board about adjusting our budget for the biennium. So the first couple of months of this new biennium were kind of slow in revenue, especially July. We had a pretty substantial dip in our civil penalty revenue. We also had an unfunded liability, which we had to pay out our former compliance person unused leave, which is not something that we fund in our budget. So it's what we call an unfunded liability. It caused a higher than normal payroll expenses. So we were probably, you see, about $11,000 more in payroll expenses. And we had about about $18,000 less in civil penalty income for that month. The reason we had that is because we have a new person in compliance, and that transition kind of caused a slowdown in the ability to get our notices out. And so we had very little civil penalties in July. Looking at August, it went up pretty substantially, and then it looks like we're on target in September to meet our goal. But starting out the biennium with about $20,000 shortfall in funding kind of got me scared a little bit until I looked at the numbers, and it looks like we're rebounding from that. We also continue to have approximately 3 months of working capital in our reserves, with a bank balance as of September 14th of $326,000. Any questions about budget and funding? No? Okay. So staffing, the board's former compliance specialist, Tori McCullough, was offered and accepted a position with the Oregon Towing Board as the board administrator. Her last day of work was July 5th. In consultation with DAS HR, as her vacated position is critical, I moved Mitch Breedlove into that position, and then I moved Christian, one of our other employees, into Mitch's position. Christian was a position that we had for COVID. It was a limited duration. I'm happy to say that we did an open internal recruitment. Mitch applied for the position and was selected to fill the position vacated by Tori. He took over that position officially on Friday, September 15th. So congratulations to Mitch. We are now going to be opening Mitch's position internally at first, and then if no candidates apply, we'll open it externally. So congratulations, Mitch. Board member recruitment. So we have a vacancy. We have a current vacancy for a public board member position. That position was vacated by Ming Chen Pinkham. An applicant was selected by the governor to move forward for Senate confirmation on September 26th. So a few days from now, we'll have that position filled with a new confirmed board member. And that person is still on board. I'm not giving the name yet because we've had people back out a day before confirmation. But he seems to be really wanting to do this. So I think we'll have a new public board member for the next board meeting. Our next vacancy, and then after that we won't have one for a while, is going to happen January of 2024. It's an LMT position, so I'm required per the bylaws to send out to the trade organizations a letter asking them to make a recommendation 2 months before. So I'll be sending that out November 1st-ish for the, they have input into that. So I'll go to our SEBA report. The biennial semi-independent board report will be due next year to the governor and to the legislators. It's a pretty extensive report that details the board's financial activities, our rulemaking activities, our compliance statistics, and many, many other topics. It basically really breaks down the last biennium into just kind of minute detail. The report is after our biennial audit, which I said started today. I received all the documents this morning. Our audit is being conducted by the Portland accounting firm of Moss Adams. And I said in this, it'll begin near the beginning of 2024 and last a couple of months. The audit actually starts today. They sent out some dates and they asked me if I wanted to go early or late. And I said, let's get it done. We're ready. So they sent me all the documents over the weekend and I got them this morning. At the completion of that audit, I'll start working on the SEBA report, which between the audit and the SEBA report, it takes me about 6 months of just kind of being dedicated to that because it's pretty extensive and a lot of in there with closed doors crunching numbers. So these guys know that. That's what I have. Any questions about the report?
No, that's a full report.
Yeah. I also attached to the director's report the all schools contact list. I put together a list of, after the all schools meeting, I put together a list of the schools. I reached out to everyone on that list to make sure that that was who they wanted to have as a contact person and that the information was correct. There were some corrections, email corrections and people that we swapped out, but as of last week, this is the most current list of schools in Oregon. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any last questions for Bob? Okay. Before we move into compliance, I'd just like to say, it looks like we maybe had a few new people join us. If we had anyone, any public members come on, could you make sure that your LMT number is listed next to your name, so we can record that? Okay, do you need them to introduce themselves? And could we just get you to introduce yourself now so we can get that in the record?
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
This is Ashley Hernandez. I'm the Government Relations Specialist with FSMTB. Hey, Bob. Hey, Joe. Hey, Jeff.
My name is Edith Pervert Gilder, and I'm an LMT out of Medford, Oregon.
Could you just put your LMT number on there so we can get that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Pennington, LMT 3833. I'll try to get my number on there. I'm in Newburgh, Oregon.
I think that's everyone. Okay, seeing no one else, let's go ahead and move on to compliance.
Thank you very much. Director Ruark stole a bunch of my thunder this time.
Good job, Bob.
A lot of this will be reiteration, but so licensure. I want to thank Christian. He's been working out a class in Mitch's initial application function for the licensing division. He's done a fantastic job. As Director Ruark pointed out, now that we have the compliance specialist position filled, I'm working with HR to open up Mitch's licensure position, and as Director Ruark pointed out, for an internal recruitment at this time to see if we get any applicants that are interested for promotion. And if not, then we'll open it outside as well. CE audits have recently been reinstated, and after being shut down during COVID, the audits are returning and we're finding some errors, and on several cases is what looks on the surface as possible fraud. So we're opening some investigations into that. I think you'll see one, and it might be in this one. That we're coming probably next. Moving on to compliance, as Director Ruark pointed out, Mitch has been working out a class as our compliance specialist for the past several months. He's learning all these new procedures and processes. We're taking the time as Mitch and I are learning this position, since the prior employee in this position was working 100% remotely. We didn't have a lot of knowledge of how that person processed each of these So we're really taking the opportunity to dissect the entire procedural in the process and make it better, more efficient, and something that fits Mitch's style as well. And that's going quite well, actually. I think that's. So the agendas should get bigger and bigger as we move forward. We are, I would say, reasonably proud of it. And, but we do have, what I would say, some backlog reps.
Second, Jeff. Edith, your mic is on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
We'll be spending some time post-meeting, this meeting, of course, getting our NOPAs out and everything like we normally would. And then any extra time that we may have, going back and dipping into whatever backlog we might find in order to get in front of the board as necessary. As Bob pointed out, Mitch was officially offered and accepted the position, which came into effect on Friday. So he is officially in his slot. We're also needing to train Mitch on conducting his own investigations, because this compliance specialist not only manages the compliance that comes before the board, handles all of the notices and final orders, negotiations, all of that, but is also responsible for conducting internal investigations, most notably background information on applicants that might need board approval. The CE audit kind of investigations fit nicely into an in-house investigator as well. And then I would also like to have Mitch trained to do external investigations for those times when maybe we don't have myself or a contracted investigator able, or we've been to that place 17 times and they know everybody. And so Mitch will be a new wrinkle to that. So looking for external training as well as the internal training that Bob and I can provide to Mitch to get him up to speed on that. That may take a few months. A lot of that comes from actually getting out in the field and doing it. So, but I believe we've got one case going forward this meeting. Yeah, it's an application that we're bringing before you. Mitch conducted that investigation. So all in all, going well, but we've been quite busy, and I have been learning as much as Mitch has as we've been doing this together. And so I have not been keeping up on all my administrative stuff as much as I'd like to, but I think after this meeting, we should find our groove and really get going. Are there any questions about what's happening in licensure or in compliance?
Yes, Jeff. First, I'd like to thank Mitch for closing that door. That made a big difference. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Jeff, can you tell me what the recruitment for the new person filling Mitch's, what is the job title of that? I forgot. I apologize.
For Mitch's position, former position?
Yes.
That's a licensure specialist, and Mitch's position was primarily involved in the initial licensure applications. We kind of break it up, although everybody in licensure covers and helps our customers regardless of what their needs are. Mitch was primarily the in-house expert on initial applications, so working with the schools and the transcripts and the MBLEX and getting all of the required application requirements in, and kind of, there's a lot of hand-holding sometimes with the initial first-time applicants or out-of-state applicants that are coming into Oregon. And was Mitch's primary position. Christian is now working out a class in that position, and that's been a very smooth transition because Christian has been kind of our Swiss Army knife during COVID, and so he's cross-trained in licensure, a little bit in compliance. He knows both the licensure side for existing LMTs and renewals and CEs and like that, and then he also would fill in for Mitch when Mitch would be on vacation or out of the office on the initial side. So I would say roughly he had about 60% knowledge of Mitch's position already, and we're just bringing him up to speed on the other 40%, and he's a quick learner. So I'm hopeful that Christian is interested in that position full time, and we haven't scared him off. And as soon as HR gets back to me, I believe I closed with them on Thursday or Friday, expressing our need to open up that position this week. And so I'm hopeful I'll get some feedback by tomorrow. We might have that position open for recruitment as soon as possible. And then we need to discuss if Christian was interested and was successful in promoting, about backfilling Christian's limited duration position. I would argue that it's a critical position, even though it was initially designed for COVID. It has proven to be a very valuable position, and if we can afford to continue it, I would lobby in that direction. But that's for another meeting. Did that help, Maria?
Yes, thank you. So licensed specialist, that's what I wanted. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You got the wrong version.
Licensed specialist.
You got the wrong version.
Wish you were here.
No.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, if there's no more questions for Jeff, we can go ahead and move into the strategic plan review. Bob, the strategic plan you said was part of the packet we got?
Yes.
Where is it in there?
Yeah, so this morning we had a difficult time getting this portion of it attached to the board packet, so hopefully it's in there now. This is the workbook, so I'll go through it with you. The thing that's this part here, okay?
Yeah.
This is the workbook, so, this is the review of what we read, the draft. It talks about what we came up with at the retreat. And so they put it all together for us with pictures, and it looks great. It's a nice synopsis of what the board came up with about their strategic plan. And what I like about this is you can see in several places how this goes along with the governor's vision of Oregon. So there's succession planning in here, there's DEI in here, and I think it's a good strategic plan. The second part of it is, so you have this packet that shows what we came up with. We have to put it in to a living list or a workbook so we can, so I and the board can track the progress, how we're making progress on it. So it's kind of a living list. It looks like this, and it's what we do is we put the goal, we put the context, description. These actually both work together. You don't take one without the other, because you can't put everything we discussed in here that's on the overview here, the draft overview. So when I'm setting up each goal, like this first goal is a full board process review, I put as much as I can measure in each one of these subtopics. And then I go to this to say, okay, under those subtopics, there's a lot more involved in that. So this is what the workbook is. It's this page with each goal, all 5 of the goals. It's going to have the different strategies, the 3 or 4 or 5 strategies for each goal. And then we'll put a time frame and some notes and people involved in there. What I need from the board is to approve this workbook. It's a living list, so there's no need to approve it every single board meeting. It's going to be different every single board meeting, but I'm going to bring it to the board meeting to give you an update on where we're at with it. But if you can approve the format here, I will, if you like it. This was the format that was given to us by Catalyst, the people that did the moderation for us. And if you like that format, I like it. I think it'll work well for what we want to do. Then I'll start using that format, and then I can bring it to the board every month or every meeting and show the board where we're at. I'm also going to put this on our website so the public can see where we're at with our strategic plan, and board members can too. Anybody can log on or get on our website and see where we're at with our strategic plan and how we're making progress.
So I just want to ask, so I understand how these work together.
Yes.
So this is our strategic plan,
Yes,
this is the document that is going to show how we are working on each of those
the
steps.
workbook, yes,
And these are the metrics we're using to parse this out.
correct. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel if this is, if you feel like this is gonna be useful to you, I think that sounds like the most important piece, that it's something that you can interact with and feel confident this will help you bring the information together. I feel like that's the important part to me. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
So if you guys can approve this process, I will begin using this process to measure the strategic planning goals. And this will be the workbook and the packet that I send to the governor's office as part of our DEI plan.
Okay, so we need a motion to vote on approving the new strategic plan.
I move to approve the strategic plan.
Second.
Gotcha, Shannon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Fantastic, motion carries. There you go, Bob, strategic plan.
Wonderful.
Okay. Next order of business, posting meeting updates on the board's website.
Yeah.
Is this an item we need to vote for, or is this just an update?
Well, I think so. So what we're talking about is there's a new law that takes effect in January that requires posting and recording of the board meeting on our website. We, at the last meeting, got an opinion from DOJ regarding that process and how it relates to the actual minutes and things like that. So I think we're, as staff, we know exactly what we need to do legally. The question is, we're ready to start doing that now versus waiting till January. And the question we have is it okay if we start posting the video of the board meeting now versus waiting till January?
But just in the sidebar, Heather's named one of her clients, a couple of them already are doing that.
Yes, yes, another board, other
Yeah.
boards have already started it, so
Yeah.
we just want to get the board's permission to do it
Yeah.
versus waiting till we have to do it in January. So.
I have, hi, well, welcome to who's calling in. I don't see a name yet, but if you could mute your mic. How does a caller do?
I muted it.
We got it, thank you. Kaite, does this impact your workload if we go ahead and do it now versus waiting till January?
No, not at all. It just helps get people to see what's happening.
Okay.
Immediately after, rather than waiting a length of time for us to get it produced.
And my other question was, are these, when the video is put up, is it captioned?
Well, I guess we'll cross that bridge then. I mean, it's not something we cannot do. We can look into it and see. I mean, everybody's doing it. It's possible. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I just know because we did have some people who identified as deaf or hard of hearing attended and had some follow-up questions about how to better interact with meetings. So
yes, we're really good about accommodating for all of that, so it should be all right.
Wonderful.
Yeah, our software has the ability to do that. We haven't done it yet, so I think that's what she's getting at, is that theoretically we can do it. So we hope that the software doesn't let us down, we're able to do it. And if it doesn't, then we'll switch software. I mean, we'll make sure we make it happen, so.
I feel like we don't get the voice from people who need that service at our meetings because it's hard for them to engage with the meeting because they don't have captioning. So I don't think we're getting that voice here, and if we can do it I think as part of our DEI strategic plan, I feel like that is something that we should do, because this is a profession that is a very reasonable part of our constituency. But they don't often get to interact here.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna look, that's a good point. Yeah, I'll look into that and see if it's something that's possible during the meeting as well, in case, like you said, people from that demographic wishes to attend as well. Perfect, no, that's.
Yeah, I've had some feedback and spoken with some interpreters about the challenges of interacting with our meeting structure. So, yeah, I think that could be a big win for those people. Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion?
Would you like a motion for us to move forward after this meeting with,
Yes, please.
all right, so move. To start adding our, recorded meetings to the website for accessibility.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Shannon, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Start posting these now. Okay, so next order of business is the all schools meeting update, which looks like me. This year's all schools meeting, this was the first one I've attended. It was a small group of people who I felt like had a very, very good discussion, and indicated that the meeting was helpful for them to touch base, and I felt like it was, I heard some very valuable things about trends and patterns that the schools are seeing with incoming students, some of the needs and changing, maybe changing dynamics in the schools post-COVID, as we're starting to have some of that information now available. So I thought it was very valuable, and it sounded like everyone at the meeting would be invested in doing it again next year. Chrissy, you attended as a educator. Did you have any feedback you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think it comes from the place of like, okay, now we're really feeling it on the other side of COVID now. You know, a lot of schools have made it to the other side of the pandemic. So, you know, enrollment is starting to go back up. I know that was a question of Jeff's too about, you know, how is enrollment? Because that also impacts us as a board as far as, you know, graduates, who's gonna be a new licensee potential applicant. So it sounded like numbers are strong. That was my takeaway for most of the schools. And then there were some schools that unfortunately weren't able to make it. I would have liked to have heard from though, as far as their matriculation. And I don't know if we've heard anything since, probably not. But those that attended, it sounds like pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. I think that was maybe one of the things we could address for next year about the meeting, is having well, now that we have the actual list of schools, we know who's missing.
Yeah.
I feel like that will be very helpful going forward. But I think in the kind of wrapping around coming out of COVID, like you said, it was helpful to get the information we did.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who showed up were able to provide some good insight.
We had a little bit of a short notice. It was kind of a, you know, hey, let's have the all schools. And so I've tickled it on my calendar now to make sure that we can give the schools, you know, a couple of months notice so they can work it into their schedule. And now that I have contact information for everybody that's up to date, I think we'll get a better response.
We used to get statistics in our board meeting about all the schools and their passage rates and all that stuff. What happened to all that?
We got a new database.
Oh, okay.
So, the
Which
old
is kind of
database.
interesting to see.
Yeah, the old database was specifically set up to do the SEBA report I was telling you about. And part of that SEBA report was some of those statistics.
Yeah.
So the old database was an access database that was written for the board, based on what the board needed for that SEBA report. So it's easy to get that information out of it. So I don't know if we're able to get that information with our new database, but it's a good question. We need to see.
Most of those statistics that were there were for people taking the practical exam, which went away in 2016. We really didn't track the influx.
Okay.
FSMTD does that. So those were the statistics you were getting on testing.
Okay.
It was about the practical.
So we can get from MSTB those statistics and put, I mean, if we wanted, couldn't we? Are they keeping that information? I think.
I don't know if they.
I don't know if they
share that.
release it.
I mean, don't the schools have their own pass
Yeah.
rates? Because they have to advertise that to get new students and stuff, right?
And they usually release that, I think, every January. They'll release like what the rates were. But I don't know if they put it like all together for like the state or anything. I think. So schools could share it.
Yeah. It'd just be interesting to see that, because I know we used to get that occasionally, people would comment on, the trends and things.
Right.
Thank you, Robert. Interesting.
I'd just like to add to this conversation that one trend that we are seeing that's related to the schools is that the need for new LMTs is as high as I've ever experienced. And that we are constantly hearing about the lack of LMTs in the practice in order to be hired by different organizations and spas and like that. So there's a shortage right now. It looks like if you were in school right now, you'd be gainfully employed rather quickly, depending on your geographic region. But it seems to be almost statewide.
I attended a meeting in May and been with Alan Nunez over at COCC, and they had some local business owners, and AMTA was there, and members of the staff, and several of the business people there. One in particular that stuck in my mind was the person that owned a physical therapy place, and before COVID, she had 9 LMTs on staff. She has 2 now and can't fill the positions. Just can't find bodies to put in those positions. And everybody else kind of was in agreement with that. They were experiencing the same issues. So,
I think some of that will be relieved as we go forward and start graduating more people. I certainly hope so. And it sounded like from a lot of the schools, they almost don't have enough spots for the demand. They can only manage so many. Teaching massage, you just can't open up your classroom to any number of people because you physically can't manage that. So yeah, we're limited in seats we can take. But I think we're still finding that balance post-COVID of employers maybe meeting the needs of massage therapists for their safety and things like that in the professional spaces. So I think there's some, I don't know, bi-directional issues, and I think the schools sound like they obviously want to get going again, but some that maybe have 2 cohorts or down to 1 cohort,
that's 50%.
Exactly.
Even though many schools were reporting running at full capacity, their capacity has been diminished by 50% since pre-COVID. So that's still a shortage. Net shortage.
Yeah, I think our capacity to put out graduates was clearly diminished from what they all said.
Yeah, I'm sure you can see that from this last year with graduates and all of that. I know we had an uptick compared to the pandemic, but it still was probably not like a huge uptick.
it's still not like pre-COVID.
Right.
It doesn't seem to be replacing bodies who've left the state or retired.
Or just left because of COVID altogether.
Right, a lot of COVID effects for people exiting the profession, retiring, or seeking other employment. It was maybe less dangerous. And then we had an exodus of sorts of people going to other states as well. And that's slowed down. We don't have that same trend anymore, but now recovering from that, I think we're still behind the eight ball a little bit.
Sounds like that will probably be the reality, at least for when we're thinking about our next
It may take
budget.
years to recover from it.
Yeah. Any other questions from those of you calling in or comments?
I just wanted to say too that I don't know if you guys are feeling it personally as a massage therapist, but folks don't have the amount of income for massage as much either. The public is being impacted by the cost of living. So I've had to make some adjustments to my prices and stuff based on where you live, and being in a rural area. Income to debt ratio right now for folks is increasing significantly, and business expenses to have a practice in these small areas is also impacting us. So I know a lot of folks are not going to the profession or leaving the profession because it's just getting really hard to be self-employed, just as another kind of outside influence.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. I think that is a very familiar experience to a lot of people trying to have a business right now. How does it feel on that? Anyone else? Okay, so I think, yeah, we go ahead with an all schools meeting next year and put it out a few months in advance, make sure we're getting the right people and get some more info. Great, thank you. Okay, next order of business, the FSMTB annual meeting proposals and delegate direction.
Yeah, so I received in your packet here, I received the resolutions, 2023 resolutions and bylaw amendments that were proposed for SFMTB. And as your delegate, I would like to vote as the board wishes me to vote. And so in this packet are the recommendations from the policy committee, the actual resolutions, the bylaw amendments, and then FSMTB's policy committee made recommendations on whether it should be passed or not. And those are in there. And so if you'd like, I can just go through these one by one and you can give me some direction. The first one is a resolution, it's 2023-1. And the policy committee recommendation is to pass this. This is one that they're changing their massage education policy to include some language that people seeking to have access to the MBLEX are required to substantiate successful completion of an approved massage therapy education program as a prerequisite for eligibility to take the MBLEX. The language previously was not that strong. So they've cleaned it up a little bit so they're not taking people. As you recall, I think at the last board meeting, we had people that had schools that weren't, that were later not approved or under investigation or things like that. And we had to revoke some licensure. And I think this is a move to sort of help keep that from happening again. Yeah, any questions about that resolution? How would you like me to vote?
Other than it sounds like they want people to graduate.
Yes.
And have a fulfilled transcript before they.
Correct.
Go on.
Yeah, I believe the prior requirement was just enrollment.
Yeah, because I do enrollment verification and starting May, when our people graduate at the very end of June, so.
Yeah, that resolution looked in line with the goals. So I thought it was well written. Any comments or questions about that? Do we need to give direction on each one of these with a vote? Do we?
So we recommend, because Bob has to go through, sorry, Bob has to go through, and he actually has to vote for our state, for our board, what our recommendation is. So, yeah.
So do we need that's what I'm saying, we need a vote?
I would say so.
Single one,
Yeah.
perfect.
Make it easier with them.
Yeah, just want to make sure we're doing this right. Okay, go back to that sheet.
And also, I just say too, even though the committee will recommend a pass or a no pass, that doesn't mean that we have to follow that recommendation at all.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, so here we're talking about resolution 2023-1. We don't have any discussion. Can I get a motion?
I move that we recommend that we vote in favor of 2023-1.
I second.
Okay, all in favor of voting for 2023-1?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. 2023-2?
Actually, there's a bylaw, now there are bylaw amendments, the rest of it. So 2023-1 bylaw amendment is in your packet. If you look, it was proposed by the California Massage Therapy Council. The entry is a membership roster. They're asking to add a membership roster of all member boards. Every board shall receive a membership roster listing each board member, and to the extent FSMTV has it, the board member's mailing address, email address, telephone numbers, the name of the board member delegate, or the member board delegate, delegate's email address, telephone number, etc. And it also makes it required that they send out that information with a time frame annually. The recommendation from the committee was to do not pass. And there you go.
I'm curious about if we have information about the rationale for that do not pass recommendation.
No.
We do not.
Because it seems like the California, I know it's not a board, it's a,
Council?
Yeah, the council, sorry, that the California Massage Council submitted a lot of proposals, and it looks like every single one of them was shot down. And I'm curious about, kind of what's behind that. It wasn't apparent to me when I read through all those things.
Carol, I don't know the answer to that, but one of my first concerns being of the suspicious nature that I am, that it might open the door to lobbying.
That was when I read it, my first thought was, oh gosh, I'm gonna end up on a list of California CEU providers or lobbyists or something. Like, I just wondered why are they trying to aggregate this information?
Yeah,
It seems like a lot of information.
all it says is that, I mean, all that list does is say that we're a member of FSMTV, which everybody knows anyway, and if they want to know our board members' information, they can get it off our website. So.
Correct.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need my personal email information.
Yeah.
That was my thought. I'm not sure why they need my information. They should constitute a board.
That California Council is, my understanding, sort of a public corporation, and it's not a regulatory agency at all. It's not a state agency. That licensure rather certification rather in California is voluntary. And originally, I think that commission was set up to kind of to protect massage therapists from being taxed and having to pay multiple fees in various different municipalities when they work in neighboring municipalities. And so I wonder, like this commission has, or council rather, has, it doesn't have the power that the regulatory boards have. And so I'm guessing they must be an anomaly of sorts in FSMTB. And anyway, so I just want to make sure I understand what's really going on, because it looked like a whole ton of proposals and every single one of them was like, shot down. And I'm I get this one about the name, address, and phone number of everybody and their grandma, but I wonder about the other ones.
Well, we'll go through them one by one and do our best for you, Carol, but we don't have that. I mean, maybe only California knows why they want these, but we'll do our best. But you're not wrong about California's council being unique as a member with FSMTB, and their regulations are local for the most part, and so they're varied all across the state. And it makes them kind of an outsider on the inside, and sometimes it does create some difficulties for them.
I also think it's fair to note that they're asking for bylaw amendments.
Yeah.
Which is fairly hardcore compared to a resolution.
Absolutely.
So anytime there is a question of changing the bylaw, there's gonna usually be a bit of a pushback anyways. But I personally would like to say I would move to not pass, because I don't think there's enough information, honestly. But that's me.
I'll second.
Get my screen back up. Thank you. All in favor of not passing this resolution? Opposed? Okay. Resolution passes.
It's not pass.
I know we're in the double negative territory, right?
That's dangerous.
Yeah, Lori's like, wait. Words mean things.
Pass or not pass?
Yes. Okay.
So next one.
Next bylaw amendment.
All right, so bylaw amendment 2023-2. It's also like we talked about, CAMTC. Their reasoning for the proposed amendment is meeting of the FSMTV Board of Directors should be open and transparent to the member boards and support FSMTV. Member boards should have enough prior notice of board meetings and the items on the agenda for the board meeting to decide whether to attend. So that was the reasoning. They changed some language in here, like from face-to-face to in-person. An agenda with including the general nature of the business to be transacted. Let's see, notice of video meetings. So and this is a big one, actually, approved minutes of every board of directors meeting shall be sent to all member boards no later than 15 business days after approval. That is not something that FSMTV has ever done. And that's a pretty substantial step.
I'm putting that into a bylaw causes administrative constraints on them that.
And financial restraints. They're gonna have to hire somebody to do it and get it sent out within 15 days is pretty quick.
That sounds a pretty onerous thing to put in a bylaw.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any question or discussion about this?
Well, I'll weigh in on the other side of that. I'm super in favor of transparency.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
I just think it could be framed as a resolution. We've tried doing that in the past for Oregon. I think something like this needs to start as a resolution, personally.
Well, I would imagine as a resolution, you have some flexibility, like with our rules. You put that in the bylaw, if it is a colossal failure, they're stuck with it until you've got to get it out. And that feels like a pretty high burden for something that they haven't done before.
Exactly. It's going to be a huge leap.
Yeah.
Can we direct our delegate to push for this as a resolution and be against, and vote against it if it remains as a bylaw change?
Well, I guess what I could say, if you decide not to support me, that do not pass, then when I vote that way, I can say, the board felt that, while it's a good idea, it definitely is not a bylaw, it shouldn't be a bylaw amendment, maybe a resolution instead. So I vote not to pass it, that's what I can say.
Yeah, if they even open it up for you to say that.
If they even open it up, yeah,
Right,
sometimes they
there
don't.
may be no conversation.
Yeah.
And if we, Carol, if that's something that we feel like is very important and should be a resolution, we could always bring that to the table for next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, and reframe it.
Okay, so any more discussion? I need a motion.
Well, I move to not pass the proposed bylaw amendment of 2023-2.
I'll second.
Thank you, Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. So 2023-3. This here.
I know we have a lot of things to flip through here.
Yeah.
For this.
Okay, so the reasoning for this amendment is the CAMTC feels that all representatives of member boards who are nominated or self-nominated for a seat on the FSMTV Board of Directors should be placed on the ballot for the election if they meet the qualifications. The nominating committee should be reviewing nominees for eligibility and should not be able to exclude a potential candidate for a board seat on any basis other than failure to timely submit a nomination or fail to meet the objective. So currently, they have the nominating committee, which if there's nominations for board member positions, or associate members, then they review the eligibility, or they review it, and they've moved forward a certain amount. Let's say it's 2 to vote on it. That way you don't have 15 people to vote, and it takes 15 people to vote, each time the vote goes around, you gotta count each vote. So they narrow the list down to a reasonable amount of people to move forward to board member positions. This bylaw amendment wants to make it so anybody that's nominated moves forward if they meet the qualifications. So potentially you could have 15 people for one board member position.
Wouldn't that water down the voting so that
it potentially could?
But I'm also wondering how are people excluded? How do they get to that list of 2 they put out? Does anybody have any idea?
we don't have access to their procedures or policies for that committee, so I don't know.
So that's questionable.
It is questionable, and that's something that's come up in the past as well. And I can't remember if I don't know if we've had resolutions in regards to this particular situation. I think we did put something forward about the voting process.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, but unfortunately that failed.
It did, yes.
So, I mean, there's some good questions in here. Again, I don't know if this is a bylaw situation though. I think it needs to go back as a resolution. I have issues with the bylaw piece.
I like that it's a bylaw. I mean, the way that members are selected is really critical to an organization, and it makes me uncomfortable to know that an unknown number of qualified candidates, in theory, have been nominated, yet only a couple of them who are chosen in an opaque process would be placed on the ballot. I don't have a problem with 15 people on a ballot. I'm like, what's the big deal? You're going to read the bio or the statement of more than 2 people? Like, how hard is that? I think that qualified candidates, if they, pass muster, that they ought to be on the ballot.
I understand and agree with you, Carol, in concept, but I think when you have 12, 15 people on a ballot for one position and 30 people voting and everyone gets 2 votes, that's when you have the problem.
But how do we know how many people, like we're throwing around these numbers 12, 13, 15, like how do we know how many people really are on the ballot and what the actual selection criteria are for weeding out, let's say, 2 from among a larger group of qualified, people that meet the qualifications? I presume there's some people that don't.
So, Carol, I mean, what you're hearing is because it's opaque and we have no idea how people are getting dumped off of this, it could really only be 4 people.
Or if they're dumping anybody at all, quite frankly.
But 2 qualified people could just be excluded. It might not be onerously 12 or 15 people to vote. It sounds like this is a big issue with with this system. And I think it sounds like everyone's uncomfortable with the opacity of it and because we don't understand how people are getting selected to go into the election. But is this the right
If people
solution?
are not being selected,
Right.
they are qualified. They may be passing everybody through. And this may just be a way that if we do get 30 nominees, then we have a method to filter it.
So what I'm hearing though is that there's a level of discomfort with that, but also because we don't know what's going on, we don't know if this is a good solution or a bad solution.
Right.
And we don't have the information. Is this something that we are comfortable putting into, like, trying to put into a bylaw at this point, or is it something that would be better served again with us coming back next year as a resolution from our board?
I don't know. It makes me wonder if California's been putting forth some qualified candidates who never make it on the ballot. And
I thought
it's
the same
a,
thing, but
a
then I
large
looked and
organization seeking a voice.
I thought the same thing, and then I checked, and they do have a California individual that's up for the election and made it through the nomination committee, so.
Right. And I'm quiet because I have FSMT's bylaws pulled up.
I was just gonna ask you.
Because I'm actually looking,
See if that's documented with your selection process.
yeah, if it's maybe in another, article, another section or something. Let's see, we're nominated for a seat on the board of directors and placed on the ballot election. So this is for standing committees. Okay, this is strictly for the nominating committee. This is in relation to just committees. The nominating committee shall seek nominations for members and associated people seeking nominations. Okay. Sorry, bear with me.
No, thank you for doing this check.
This is.
While you're looking, I want to say something also. Like I'm involved in lots and lots of organizations, and my observation is that nowadays it's really tough to find people who want to be nominated for any kind of committee or board position or any of that kind of stuff. And the idea of like narrowing the pool because there are so many, that sounds like BS to me. I think that there's a shortage of people who want to serve in these ways. So,
Yeah, I don't know if that was the case or not. I just put that as a for instance. So,
I think this is, to me, it's coming down to what do they mean by eligible? So that's what I'm sussing out here from the current bylaws. what they're trying to amend. So I think it really goes back to what is eligible per FSMTV. And,
Because the change is to qualified.
right,
So that, yeah, that's.
so it's just
right.
to open it to all, not
Okay.
just eligible.
So their policy statement says, when making nominations, the nominating committee considers diversity of ethnicity, gender, geographic distribution, and professional experience. Ultimately, the mission of the board of directors and FSMTV is to support our member boards in their work to ensure that the practice of massage therapy is provided to the public in a safe and competent manner. That's their statement regarding their nominating committee.
So if I can chime in, first, like Krista said, it's a bylaw, but when you take out the red, it clearly says that those seek nominees and present the candidates for each open seat. And then they add an awful lot of additional stuff. So it's almost like, it's all in the way that they word it, it's almost like that's not actually being done, but in the statement it's being done, and then it's supported by what Bob just read, that it's also being done. Am I reading that incorrectly?
Not what I can, no, I think.
All I can suss out from that is that there's something that makes a person eligible or ineligible, and we don't know what would make them ineligible.
Well, it says right here, it says the 7 voting positions are elected. It says when making nominations, the nominating committee considers diversity of ethnicity, gender, geographic distribution, and professional experience. So if you have 5 board member positions available and 5 California people apply for it, you get California running the FSMTV.
Right.
So I think what they're trying to do is,
Yes.
California would like all 5 to be presented, and they're trying to diversify.
Yeah, they're trying to make sure that they have a board that's representative nationwide versus just, in one location. And it meets the, geographic distribution as well as the diversity of ethnicity and gender. They're taking all that into consideration. So it says that in their policy statement here. So that's the criteria that they use. I don't think they're excluding people out of favoritism. It looks like they're trying to build a board that's representative of the nation, of all the member boards that are represented.
It seems like a very heavy-handed solution for the, yeah, again, I think what you said about the bylaw versus a resolution.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, we need more information.
Well, like I said, like Jeff said, we don't know that people are not getting moved forward.
Right.
I mean, they may be moving forward everybody.
Right.
Already.
I mean, there could be, I think there's other factors too, where, you need to be either serving on the board or been on the board the last 12 months or something along those lines. There's other little pieces that are required.
Yeah, there are.
So.
Yeah, to be on the board of directors for FSMTV, you have to be a board member, or a director like myself.
Right. So I feel like if we're not clear cut on something, then I would not recommend moving this into a bylaw situation. I think there's more information required.
The state of Oregon does that for nominees for our board.
Right, yeah.
And they move forward who they feel is the best fit based on much of the same criteria.
Right.
It's not an uncommon practice, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, we have to direct Bob to vote one way or the other, so can I get a motion to do one of 2 things?
Yea or nay?
Well, I move to direct Bob to say no pass to the proposed bylaw amendment 2023-3.
I get a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I believe we have one more.
Yeah, so this one, because these bylaw amendments affect the voting for the board of directors, this one says that they want to do the bylaw amendments first before having voting for board members, because bylaws take effect immediately. So basically, if we supported these bylaw amendments, any of them, then you want to say yes to pass this one. If you do not pass like you guys did, then you don't want to pass this one either, because
Yeah.
they're all connected.
Right. Yikes.
When you put them all together, it does seem to be a bit of an agenda.
Well played, well played.
Wow. Okay.
Any thoughts, folks?
You can probably hear my thoughts.
I don't know if you at home can see the color of her face
It's
changing.
starting to look like the whole thing here. I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
My thoughts, anybody? Okay, then can we get a motion to direct Bob's voting? Yea or nay on this?
Well, I move that we direct Bob to not pass the proposed bylaw amendment 2023-4 at FSMT's annual meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. I know that was a lot of discussion about bureaucratics, but
We gotta do it.
we do, and thank you.
Just for clarification, for the record, the resolution, we said yes, but the rest is all no.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
And this is my first time as a delegate, so if it happens again next year, I'll probably do a little more research, maybe get some more information for the board. You know, I haven't done this yet, so this is I'm kind of new to this, so I could have prepared a little more, give you a little more insider information, but I just didn't have it, so.
Well, I don't think they released it until pretty recently.
Yeah, I just got it, yeah.
And they also, there really isn't any discussion until you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least we were able to direct you. But beyond that, it's gonna be brand new for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't you really the only one with organizational knowledge of how this system works? You're the
I
only
think
one
so.
who's been there.
I've been
I think
there,
so.
I've been to that meeting, I've been to the meeting, yeah, I went to the one in Arizona, so I saw
Okay.
the procedures and how it went down, but not, didn't participate, obviously.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, and you're familiar then with what the delegate does.
Yes.
I mean, initially at the beginning, unless it's changed, because it's been a few years for me too, you know, that you'll have an opportunity, well, that's another thing we could bring up too right now, in the board meeting is you get like 2 minutes to talk about what's going on the last year for the Oregon Board of Massage Therapists.
Yes.
And if there's anything we want Bob to bring up, this is the time to tell him.
Yeah, I kind of have a prepared thing, just going over, you know, a new governor and some of the things that we're required to do and that we're working on. And we talked a little bit about the collaborative approach to the illegal massage industry, how we're working with law enforcement and landlords and you know, the FBI and just kind of an FSMTV and kind of doing a collaborative approach. Multidisciplinary, I suppose, approach to trying to combat that, which is out of control right now nationwide.
Right.
So basically that's it, just, you know, about what's going on with Oregon but if there's anything else you'd like me to bring up, I certainly can.
I feel like that covers it for 2 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm also presenting at that
Oh, that's
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
That's
I have
right.
to present a recap of the executive summit that we attended in Denver, so.
Yeah, and then you'll have a lot of breakout sessions and you'll be well fed. And
And hopefully next year we'll be able to send some more people.
Yeah.
And kind of get re-engaged in the FSMP, BT process.
Absolutely.
So that we have more of that knowledge that we like lost through this kind of COVID era.
Yeah.
Right.
And board turnover, so great. I think we'll get back on track with this relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great that we're now back to being part of the Tilda too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next order of business is new board member business.
So I have something. Can I take this board assigned duties? Does that bring it up there, you think? Okay. Is that in the packet?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
So this was kind of a last minute thing for me. I have a list of, that it's kind of a living list that I update regarding onboarding for new board members and offboarding and when a board member becomes a chair and a vice chair but I also have this list of board assigned duties. It is way out of date because most of the people who are on here, actually none of them are still on the board that are assigned duties. So I'd like the board to be able to either have a board member volunteer or assign somebody for these duties so I know who the liaison is for certain things. So we want to think about that more and make an agenda item for the next board meeting. Because we have a new board member coming out at the next board meeting. Or do we want to go?
My thought is when I looked at that list, what I would like is, my preference would be there's the task and then just a 1 or 2 sentence description of what that entails. Because we do have new people who've not worked in any way with the committee.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, or for example, how Carol's supposed to get the financials. Like when I was in the chair position or vice chair position, I didn't know that was coming. So I would at least like a 1 or 2 sentence clarification so people know what they're getting into if they agree to do something.
Perfect.
And when the new person is onboarded and Rame's here next month, I think maybe we could do that more equitably.
Agreed. Yeah, we should have a full, barring anything. I mean, we should have everybody should be a full board anyway. Next board meeting, so I think that'd be a good time to bring this up. So I'll go through this, like CE person. I mean, of course, we don't need an exam reviewer anymore, but actually we do.
Yeah.
So I will go through this and kind of put a quick little description of what that task is involved. And and
I would love
have a
that.
better document for you guys for the next meeting if that's what you'd like.
That's what I would like. If anyone else has feedback, please speak up. Any thoughts?
Ditto.
What, Maria? Oh,
Ditto.
ditto.
Okay.
It was there was like a delay on that, so it sounded a little weird. Okay, fantastic. Any other new business anyone like to bring up? My new business point, I would like to, I believe we talked about putting this on November's agenda, have a discussion revisiting the CPR versus basic life-saving requirements that we've now incorporated for several years, which have had some unforeseen and unintended consequences in the CEU requirements for LMTs. So I would like to put that as an agenda item to discuss and go forward with some discussion and tweaking of that system. Anything else for new business? Okay. Then on to the proposed borderline topics. And this will be for the November?
Fall, yeah.
Fall.
Yeah, November-ish. It'll be after the November.
Yeah. Last one of the year.
Yes.
Very nice. That puts it safely because we don't have it in our bylaws.
Yes.
So these are the Yeah, these are the proposed borderline topics. The FSMTP meeting, well, rule changes always are in our borderline. Upcoming board meeting dates, because it'll be a new year. At the November meeting, you guys will set your year meeting dates. We'll have a new board member, so we'll do a feature of that individual. And then we'll do the little legislative update. Although I've done that at a board meeting, we haven't done that in a borderline topic, so we'll actually spell it out for people.
What about an article on Meet Mitch?
Oh, new employees?
Yeah.
We can do that.
Meet Mitch again.
Meet Mitch in a
The
different
new
capacity.
improvement.
We can talk about new employees or promotions.
Mitch 2.0.
Because by that time, we'll have the other positions worked out.
Yeah, just reintroduce staffing.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Great.
Hey, who's writing that?
Mitch is.
I do just want to ask, from my onboarding experience, that we make sure we let the new board member know that they need to write something about it, like right up front.
So-
And maybe give them an example of what's been in the
I want to talk a little bit about onboarding. So the, I have a list of things that we do when we onboard somebody, and you know, there's no, it's, for me, it's, every time I onboard someone, it's educational for me, because I learn I've never been a board member. I don't know how it feels, right, to be a board member, to go to, I've been in state government for a long time and in government for a long time. So there's a lot of theories on how you should do it. But each time one of you gets onboarded, I take your feedback and I implement it into that process. Like, you know, there's not enough training, there's not enough, you know, whatever. And so I appreciate all the feedback that all of you have given, even some complaints and comments and concern. I appreciate all of that, because like I said, there's a book, but it's written by bureaucrats on how to be a board member, or how to onboard a board member. It's not written by board members generally who have been through the process and know, you know, feel like they were left out in certain areas. So I endeavor to get better at that as we go along. There's been a lot of change. It happened in COVID, most of them. So that added a whole different thing, you know, where I was going and meeting board members who were being confirmed at the Senate. I had to video myself in and then meet them on a video and mail them stuff and have them mail stuff back, which takes a lot longer. So that was a whole different process. So now that we're moving into being able to do some of this stuff in person, now I've got to change that process, or at least here's the process when it's virtual or a pandemic. Let me start building a process now that we can do it in person, or maybe a hybrid part of it. So I'm building that. It's foremost in my mind. I received some great feedback, the last 2 board members that we onboarded, regarding things that needed to be improved, and I've implemented that. So I think we can build it. It's never going to be perfect, but I think it'll be a lot better. So I wanted to let the board know that I am working on that every time we onboard somebody.
Well, I think all of you that are state employees, you all have a very different type of organizational knowledge about what you're doing. And so you don't necessarily realize the complete vacuum of knowledge that board members have. Like, for example, just 2 days ago, I learned that I could look up all of the documents before Kaite sent me an email. Did not know that. Yeah, so, you know, you don't know the things you don't know, and because we're all just isolated around the state and have such little contact,
So
there's so many things we don't know.
put it out there.
Yeah,
The information is usually available, so check in regularly as you get closer to the board meeting to see if it's been uploaded. You might be lucky.
right? So I think because it's this Bible thing, you don't know what we don't know, and
Exactly.
we don't know what we don't know either until all of a sudden we're not doing something we're supposed to. So maybe if we could find a way to start, whether a shared document or something of what maybe like an onboarding checklist might look like, you know, that,
I have one.
if we could maybe share that with board members, that we could offer some feedback. Like I know, for example, Krista, like you reached out to me when I got on the board, and some of that valuable stuff has been from people who've been here a long time. We don't have many people who've been here that long anymore. So
So this board assigned duties list is actually cut and pasted from a larger list, an onboarding list for new board members, and offboarding list for board members who are going away, and then when a vice chair gets elected, when a chair gets elected. So there's lists of everything. And I can certainly bring that to the next meeting when I bring this back. And we can go over that and see if we want to add or delete stuff in there. And then I think if we can post it as a shared document somewhere where you guys have it. I know we have historic documents on our agenda, our board management tab on there. There's a bunch of historic documents. If we can put them in there, I think it'll be beneficial also. So yes, I can.
Robert, I have an idea that I kind of did for nursing board, not on board member training, but I kind of did it on the case where computer was kind of central, and to explain to a judge what the computer screens look like. Is it possible to go into the elite system, having Kaite create a document where you're walking through, looking through a board packet, and what you access and what that screenshot would look like? Because I think that would maybe help with some of your elite system questions. Do you see what I'm saying?
I mean, I think
Like it looks like this, you put your code in here, the next page will look like this, the cases look like this, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
To do.
Whatever we need to be able to assist board members.
Yeah.
In the old days, I hate to say that, but before COVID, we would meet with a board member and sit down.
Correct.
And say, okay, here's the computer, here's where you sign in, here's the card, here's your warranty information on it, and go through the whole system with them and basically have some training. That's not a reality anymore for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, having something like that available, even for onboarding, but also for just reference. Hey, I haven't touched my computer in 2 months, how do I do that? Okay, but here's the list. So that's certainly something we can put together. We can work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've got cheat sheets for myself I've been writing. But again, every single month I feel like I'm finding something that I'm like, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing this, or I didn't know. I'm like, I'd like to be doing everything I'm supposed to and making all of your jobs easier. But again, I don't know what I'm missing necessarily. So yeah, maybe if we can collectively come together and come up with that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Do we have you have a handbook and it's on the system, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something we should push along. We push that when we do the training, because I do some training about contested cases and public meetings and conflict of interest and lobbying and all that kind of stuff usually, and that has been virtual for the last 2 years. I've never met Ronnie.
Do we want to move from proposed borderline topics back to board member new business and add all this stuff we just talked about?
Yes. Yeah. I actually thought this up like yesterday, that the board member handbook, I learned way more about what it is I'm supposed to do casually from other board members than I learned from that handbook. And I thought to myself yesterday, should I bring this up as new business? Looks like we've got a big agenda. Is this going to overwhelm people? I thought like maybe we need like the real handbook, the one about like how you do stuff. Like for example, Maria, I am forever in your debt for telling me that in the board member, the materials, our packet, that the way I access the compliance actual documents is to click on that little teeny tiny magnifying glass. I was stymied in trying to figure out, I know there are documents in this and I cannot find them. This doesn't work. And so stuff like that is critically important. I feel like I'm reasonably efficient as a board member, given that I'm nearing, I'm past the end of my first year. I'm closing in. I think I'm past the second year now, and I would love it if I'd have this stuff just spelled out for me in bullet points. Like, here's how you do this, 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 and this, and here's how you do it, and here's where the information is. I would so love that for the new people coming in, or maybe assigning like a big sibling, a sort of an assigned mentorship relationship for some period of time, like really mentoring somebody who comes in as a new board member. I'm in favor of all of these things. So I'm delighted that we're bringing it up now because I knew it was big, and it's been sort of burning a hole in the back of my brain for at least 48 hours.
Thank you, Carol.
I mean, that's something that we can really emphasize. I know that that's something that I do touch on during the training that Lori and I do facilitate for new board members on how to access those documents. And I do understand that, things fly over people's head because you're overwhelmed with a lot of information you're getting right off the bat. So we'll really emphasize on that and look into putting something together for a reminder on how to access, how to do this and that. No, thank you. Do appreciate that. Like Bob said, like you said, when you know, right?
Right.
So now we know and we will implement that.
I think coming from my perspective too, up until COVID, we all met in person.
Yeah.
I can forget that too, because, it was one of those, like, how did you do this? And it'd be really simple to go, okay. So,
Yeah,
we're
there's
just,
a lot of ongoing training at the meetings for
Right.
new people. They got onboarded very quickly at their first meeting. All
Yeah.
the extra stuff they missed in the training.
you're
part.
fully immersed.
Yeah.
And it's also like,
That's what we're saying.
but you're immersed, whereas there is a bit of I don't want to say like a detachment, but yeah, when you are meeting virtually, which was what was required for so many years, that's like, oh wow, this is a completely different way of having to do things.
When you're on an island, there isn't someone sitting next to you that can say, oh, let me show you something.
Nobody can say, push that little magnifying glass thing to get your files up, and you just keep pushing the wrong button. And I saw all of you nod your heads, so I know I'm not alone.
No, I even did that too when we moved to Elite years ago. It's like, how did this? Oh, okay.
Having 4 boards and 4 different systems and have to learn all of them. That's super fun.
Yeah.
No, I think this was good discussion, and I think we all want to make everybody else's world a little easier, so good discussion, and thank you everybody for
Especially for
sharing that.
everyone that does the training pieces
Yeah.
and the onboarding and all of that.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Thank you.
It sure does take a village.
Yeah. So we're gonna go back to the borderline.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other topics, or does this look good?
Get back to it. Okay, so we have our new board member article, which is how we got on our tangent.
Right.
I have one question about borderline topics. When this next borderline is published, will there still be some people who have not yet renewed their licenses with the kind of the reverting back to our full-on continuing ed standards? And if so, we should probably have yet another reminder about what just the basic requirements, how many hours, that sort of thing.
That's a good point, Carol, and I'm not certain, but I think we'd have almost another full year of people renewing under the full standards, wouldn't we? When did we?
I haven't renewed under them again yet, so.
Right, so there should be a big chunk, about 9 months or more. So yeah, that's a good point, Carol. I think we should keep that in the next borderline as well.
Yeah, maybe.
If I understood what you were asking.
Good point, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess Jeff is.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a great order.
Yeah, that's right.
You've been voluntold, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll just throw in a little thing, the audits are back.
Dun, dun, dun.
Anything else, folks at home? Okay. I think we are good for the borderline topics. And if we have nothing else, we can move into public comment and correspondence. So I want to go ahead and open up the floor to the public. When you begin talking, please again give your name and license number. And if you would keep your comments at 2 minutes or less, that would be appreciated. You go ahead and open the floor.
This is Melissa Davido, number 15905. I am part-time down in Nevada, and I was a little disappointed with the Interstate Compact to see that Nevada is the first one on board. Most of the time, Oregon is a fearless leader, and the government just kind of rubber stamped it down here. So hopefully that Interstate Compact, everybody's getting on board with that so that we can quit fighting with the boards about getting all of our over the state licensures done and all their own, anyway. So just thought I'd throw that out there. I was like, oh, Oregon's, we're not the first ones on there. So anyway.
I think Nevada had an advantage in this because I think the executive director or something was actually one of the committee members, wasn't it? The leader?
Well, and I think we also have to put in perspective that to be part of an interstate compact, it has to be a bill that the legislators have to approve and then get signed by the governor for us to join it. So it has to be sponsored by a legislator. And we know kind of what happened in the Legislative Assembly this year, made it difficult for any bill to get passed. And so I think that has a lot to do with why it wasn't forefront in their mind this year. I think Governor, I think certainly Oregon supports the idea of having an interstate compact. I don't know if the legislators do. We'll have to see when and if they present a bill. So.
Any other comments? Yeah, I did not see any correspondence. Is that correct? Okay. Then it looks like we are ready to move on to our break. Can I just ask, do we typically do our break in this session, come back and then read into executive session?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's much cleaner that way.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and take our big lunch break? Half hour? Or?
We might as well.
So
compliance will go pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it would be, the recommendation at this point is that we can actually go ahead and move into executive session, take our breaks, and then done that too, because we don't have any other business other than executive.
So move into executive session, then we'll take our break from there. Okay.
We've got our lunch here.
Maybe tell them how long we think compliance might take, so they can return if they want.
Looks like on here 1.5 to 2 hours.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, I'm still getting my training wheels going on as a chair. Sorry.
You're doing great.
Okay. So we are going to close out here and go into executive session. I'm going to go ahead and read us into that. The board may enter into executive session to discuss certain matters on the agenda pursuant to ORS 192.660, to discuss certain matters on the agenda pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents F, to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection, ORS 192.501, parents 4, and or to review, discuss, and consider written legal advice provided by the Department of Justice pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents F, or to consult with counsel concerning legal rights and duties regarding litigation and litigation likely to be filed pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents H, and or 3, to consider or discuss the executive session information obtained as part of the investigation of a licensee, applicant, or other person alleged to be practicing in violation of law pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents K, parents L, and ORS 676.175. Prior to imposing a sanction authorized under ORS 667.081 or any rule of the board shall consider but not limited to considering the following factors: the person's past history in observing the provisions of ORS 687.011 to 687.250, 687.895, and 687.991, and the rules of the board. The effect the violation has on public safety and welfare, the degree to which the action subject to sanction violates professional ethics and standards of practice, the economic and financial condition of the person subject to the sanction, and any mitigating factors that the board may choose to consider, and or consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents A, and or consider the dismissal and discipline of a public officer, employee, or staff member, or hear complaints or charges brought against each person if they do not request an open hearing pursuant to ORS 192.660, parents 2, parents B, prior to entering into executive session. The nature and authority for holding the executive session will be announced.
That's a mouthful.
I need that in a bigger font. So we're going to go ahead and move into our executive session this time.
Yeah, we just want to make sure to note there's no media present.
Oh, thank you. There's nobody, there are no representatives from the media present.
And then we anticipate being back within a couple hours for the.
We're looking at 1.5 to 2 hours for our.
2 hours is long.
2 hours.
Yes, safe.
So yeah, I expect to be back right around 1 p.m. in public session. Need a motion for that? Or we just go into it?
We just go
right into it. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right.
So see you all in executive session.
I'm sure I can get a copy of that.